Lionel, one of my favorite characters in the game. The thing with Lionel is that the people that message me about him is like they either aren't patient players or they don't understand his like play style. Like the thing with Lionel is just patience. Like you literally have to until he gets 3 TP. He can do things, but they're not really that great. You know what I mean? Like it's worth it to just wait for 3 or 4 TP because his weapon skill, in my opinion, is the best in the game. And then Endless Whispers is also incredibly good as well. He can take a hit. Also with Yen's, his magic defense is a little low, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Lionel, I'm actually good to do S. I think in some cases I'd rather have Lionel than actually even Eridor, if I'm being honest. Sometimes, in some cases, just because
So Endless Speech can hit up to 5 things at range, and it rolls 60% chance silence, and then it rolls 60% chance sleep. If one of those happens, they're shut down, basically. If it's a mage, it's shut down. If it's a healer, he can 100% Fury at range and then just like run away, and then that unit that's Furied is just useless because it can't catch him. It's like so stupid. And then Golden Opportunity is huge it's power of love with damage before. It's crazy.
And like not just damage, man, like huge damage. Like I'm always blown away by the amount of damage it does. I'm like, yo, that was crazy. That was a lot of damage he just did. S, anything else you want to add for young Lionel? I think he's upper S though. I think he's like around here maybe. No, I think he's better than Hewitt actually, but I think he's probably around the same. I'm sorry. Did you want to add anything for him?
No, that's good.
Okay, Piccoletta. So another area of contention from my tier list, and pretty much there's been a lot of like people saying like she's just pretty bad. So what I like to do, anytime like I drop any video and there's like a lot of feedback, like there like a whole Piccoletta brigade came out of nowhere. I'd never heard anybody talking about this character until I said she was the worst character in the game. Then literally like there's 50 comments out of nowhere about people saying, hey, she's like must have in hard mode. And I was like, well, I wouldn't go that far. I did go back and test a lot of her item launcher stuff, and it is good. It is valid. I took her through the mock battle, level 50, so literally just like wave after wave after wave. And she did the work, you know what I mean? Especially against like those armored-based tank characters, she definitely can shred them. I think decoy still is too TP intensive. It needs some type of reduction, or it needs to be 2, or you need to be able to maneuver it. It's just too expensive for 3. And if that's kind of your core utility, being able to do that once every 3 turns or every other turn if you have a TP battery, it's just not my cup of tea. So I think she sits alongside B. I'm actually warmed up to her a little bit since I've been using her more. So I wouldn't say C. What do you think?
So I recently have been doing like a fresh save Deathless, and if I didn't have her, I don't think it would have been possible on this one map. She completely pulled Avlora and 2 spear dudes for like 3 turns or 4 turns just by like having like keep re-upping decoys. But I mean that's on a fresh save, but in general, like I've been damage testing her. If you throw 2 speed bracelets on her, she gets pretty high speed and she starts to get like double turns after every set of turns. Like every other set of units turns, she gets like double turns. So she basically is competitive damage. She has 6 move, 3 jump, 74 evasion, really good physical and magic defense. Like the decoy, like what very late, like level 50 new game plus, it usually gets killed in ones you hit. However, it is a lightning rod and it can fill in the cracks for when CC doesn't, a provoke doesn't hit everything, or there's just like a single mage. The mage will prioritize that decoy. You can get enemies to like ball up around it to nuke them. Like her kit in of itself is not the best, but her item launcher has passive 6 range, plus her 6 move is pretty insane. And she can essentially hit up to 13 tiles away by moving and then throwing, and the AoE can hit up to 7 tiles. So she has passive 6 range, which is crazy. Like I was doing tests where I was just having her run through different maps and just like, okay, so she never needs a battery. She always can get into position. If she gets attacked, she usually dodges a lot of things because she has 74 evasion. And she has good defense, good base health. Honestly, I think she's at least A tier. Because like after damage testing, she does more damage than Narv and Izana and is competitive with Corentin and Frederica, maybe slightly behind them. But she can be way more aggressive. because she can take like 3 hits and
So-
sometimes more if she dodges.
In hard mode in New Game Plus, you don't think she needs a battery?
No, not at all, because what you can do with her is you can just have her spam items all game, and when she gets extra turns from the speed bracelets, she just gets extra damage in, right? And then it
Okay.
averages out to being pretty consistent.
So it's contingent on the speed bracelet uses then.
I would say just like 1 speed bracelet and a speed amulet, or 2 speed bracelets. So you could do it on, just like your first New Game Plus. But she has, high evasion. She can jump. She can put a decoy on really high ground, like +10 height, and then switch places with it to teleport herself onto high ground.
Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, the only use case for that stupid ability.
It's pretty bad, yeah. I don't know what they were thinking with that. It's pretty bad.
But I think just for raw damage and how tanky she is, just spamming items, she's A tier. And then decoy's kind of nice.
I don't know if
Put her at B,
you know what?
okay.
I'm willing to put a pin in that because we're going to do a few videos, a few projects. I'm willing to revisit that because what I'm going to do is use her throughout some more like the next 3 maps in hard mode to get a better feel for her, to see like, what, utility and stuff like that. It could be entirely that I'm just utilizing decoy incorrectly. I think that right now, if you are flush with money, if you have money, in order for her to use a higher end stone, she's clearly A tier. If you can get her to use those higher end stones every single round, like she shreds. Like those stones do, like you mentioned earlier, they do an ungodly amount of damage. They're like they don't cap, right? Like they always like do like a certain amount, like a lot in my opinion. Way more than they should, right? Maybe not a lot, but like they always hit more for way more than they should. So I would say like B, but asterisk. But we put her at like probably one of the better B tiers. I would actually rather have her than these 3. Well, maybe not Hasselbar. I put her and Hasselbar together. But since she can actually tank, I'd rather have her than Rudolph, Like the 74 evasion. Like, she's not going to get hit.
Yeah, but the main reason I like her, and I've been using her more lately, is she is a mage that has 6 range, that's tanky, and that never needs a battery. And if you want to use decoy, you can. So it's there, and then like you can pull enemies away. Like you can decoy on a flank and start drawing like enemy mages away, so then your main forces can push. You can do really creative gimmicks.
So for you, is decoy kind of like cherry on top? It's kind of like a nice to have. It's not like an integral part of your playstyle with her.
Yeah, she's just a damage dealer.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay,
Like for
I
New
got you.
Game Plus. Otherwise, decoy is pretty good. Like on a fresh save, decoy can tank like 2 to 3 hits, maybe dodges a few times. It wastes a lot of enemy turns.
Okay, I got you. That makes more sense now then. Because my usage with her is more decoy centric, but it doesn't have to be. It is probably nice as a nice to have, especially considering its TP cost. I agree with that. I like that. Okay, so moving on, Medina. Let's go ahead and let's get that out the way. I think she's just definitely S. I don't think that. I was literally just blown away when I found out that she had TP physic. I was like, there's no way they put this in the game. I just couldn't believe they did that. I was like, why did they do that? Like, I thought the whole, group healing and double items is already pretty effective. I was going to use her anyway. But, God tier is God tier. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, she might even be in her own tier. Maybe like S plus or something. Like I think her and Quahog kind of belong in their own tier because like she heals for free while battering everything, and she can turn accelerate things for 2 TP, and then also if you want, she can double items and throw like firestones or whatever, so she can even like and to some degree nuke.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think she's definitely like when I look at these characters here, she's just better than all of them.
Yeah,
her utility is better than every single character here. The only thing she doesn't have is damage, but she's not supposed to. I mean, with the items, with stone, she does. But just, what she can do, the only person I think that can do... Actually, no, none of them. Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking, I was like, no, none of them actually come close. Because having your team at 4 TP at all times is just game-changing, dude. You're not even playing the same game anymore once you get her. Yeah, I don't think there's any objection to that. I think she's just broken. So Izana, actually another very contentious character, man. Like, this is another character like Rudolph. I had a very, very strong affinity for them in my first 2 runs, and then just over time, I was like, yo, the setup, like, it's taken too long. to like consistently be able to do this setup and like get everything going and stuff like that. And I started favoring Frederica more, you know what I mean? And her and Frederica don't necessarily work. Frederica gets nerfed if you try and use Izana as optimally as possible. So I'm like, this ain't working, you know, like this ain't working for me. But she does hit like a fucking Mack truck. She does, you know what I mean? Like she has extremely high magical power, but she is slow as fuck. I don't like. What do you think about her weapon skill, man?
So, her weapon skill is okay. Like if you just use it without Quahog freezing everyone, it like I've just tried using it and it's decent.
Yeah.
Like I tried using it on the Avlora map, whatever chapter it is. I think it's chapter 7 or 8. It hit a bunch of things for like 200 damage and paralyzed some of them, so it's okay. But honestly, I put her at A tier originally, because all she wants to do, and this is like, you ignore all of her kit. This is how I used her. You ignore all of her kit and you just keep hitting things with lightning strike. That's all you can.
That's right, though.
And you get damage and paralyzes off, and it's the Huette effect. You get damage and you get shut down, and when it hits, paralyze is like one of the best shutdown.
Oh yeah,
like,
that is the most insane status effect in this game, dude. Paralysis.
Yeah,
it's too good. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Ride of Lightning is what, 2? It's 3, right?
It's 2.
It's 2. So I mean, she could do that every other turn, or she could do it every turn if she has a TP battery. The thing with that holds her back is she's incredibly slow. Her movement's not great either. I mean, none of the mages are really that great as far as movement. So she like needs like Julio, or she needs Medina. Like the rounds where she can't do anything. I mean, she could throw stones and stuff like that. Yeah. It's just, you know, there's so many times where she was just either so far back, or she just, you know, wasn't doing anything. She was just turns were going by without her doing anything. And I was just like, I can't do this. I have her at B. I think the TP battery thing is a big deal to me. What do you think? I mean, no TP recovery is a big deal to me. What do you think?
I think B is fair. I would have her either at A or B. Because she does need, like, she needs batteried if you want to use her to her fullest extent. Whereas, like, with Piccoletta, she just runs around for free and is, like, so, like, dude, it's so crazy. Like, just try running her, assuming you have, like, you farmed, like, economy or all of your dudes are upgraded and you can just sell all the upgrade materials you get. She's insane. She's so tanky, and she just runs around chucking items at dudes from really far away. It's hilarious.
I think she's in... Man, I just wish she was better, dude. Like... It was kind of like, you know, kind of saw the light leave my eye using her. There was a map I was just like, man, this character's actually not good. I actually thought she was the best mage in the game. Now I was like, she's actually not good. Yeah, Izana. Yeah, disappointing, I think, overall. Probably one of my biggest disappointments in the game, for sure. So we call it B, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Because everything else is kind of unusable, and her, it's like way too much setup.
Agreed. Okay, so moving on, we have Archibald. Now, I'm biased to Archibald, man. Like, I'm gonna tell you up front, I have him at A. Even going through my most recent hard mode with him, like, that 50%, excuse me, that 50% instant KO passive is fucking nuts. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with that. I don't know what
good for sure.
Yeah,
especially with arrow spray. Each one, if you hit like 5 enemies that are below 50, at 50 or below, an arrow spray, he's gonna be killing some dudes.
Yep.
For what is it, 2 TP?
I think the thing that makes him incredibly good, like actually that just elevates him from say like a B tier, is like Inescapable Arrow. Like Inescapable Arrow, like literally clutched so many times this week. If you guys keep hearing me talk about, like, I'm just doing, like, some playthroughs, like a fresh playthrough and stuff like that. So that's, some of this data is brand new. Well, not brand new, but it's, like, fresher, so to speak. So, like, just literally, like, Inescapable Arrow being insane range. His base range is so good. He has incredibly high damage already. I put a critical bracelet on him, so as well as a damage up. So, like, I think he's good. What are your thoughts on Archibald?
He's definitely A tier. Like, just an inescapable arrow and a swift end. Like, just that, I would say, is A tier. The fact that he has good base damage. He also has an absurd accuracy. He has, like, 70 accuracy.
He does, yeah.
He never misses. He's insane. So, yeah, he's good.
Agreed. I think the only drawbacks with him is a little squishy. You know what I mean? Can't necessarily get out of danger as fast as Huette. He's an old man with a cane. You know what I mean? Like, that's not happening. But I think everything else I love about him, you know, especially if you can find a way to get him high up, like perched, the character's just broken. You know what I mean? Like, he's just too good. So let's do these two together. Travis and Trish. Just going off of last night's performance. Now, you had some stuff with Trish. So to start with Trish, Because you have some technique and some theory crafting that you wanted to go over. Start with Trish.
Okay, so for Trish, if you use Act Again and spam stones, you don't have to worry about TP because like sometimes if you use her Act Again, you might be tempted to use like Fire Arrow, which is good. Like if you get her batteried and she uses 2 Fire Arrows and hits someone in the back, that's pretty good damage. But the big upside of her just spamming items is that she can move in, spam an item, and then move out. So she can kind of bob and weave. And also she can do crazy nonsense, like she can leap twice. She can move twice and leap twice, effectively giving her like 20 plus movement.
Yeah.
Which is something that I didn't include in the one video, but she might be A tier just because of her damage from like Act Again damage spam. You use it when you're approaching enemies, because you can use Act Again and then move. So you use Act Again, you move, and then you spam items twice, and then if you want, you can use Act Again. So she can like deal like compressed damage, which is good.
Right.
And then for Travis, I think he's like a B tier.
I think he just needs some type of range. I mean, stones are good, you know what I mean? But if he had something range built into his kit, I think that would change him. Because right now, he needs to be in somebody's face, which is not always good, you know what I mean? Like when it comes to hard mode, you know what I mean? Like he has decent damage, and if you were to throw a Endurance Earring on him, yeah, sure. But like sometimes this is not a good idea to be in somebody's face. And if that's all that character can do, not factoring in stones, that could be somewhat problematic. What do you think?
I think he's basically like bad Avlora.
That's a good way to put it, actually. That's what you think. The thing with Avlora is, though, man, like when she gets in somebody's face, they're dying.
Bloody Cross is insane.
Yeah. So I'll take that, you know what I mean? And Bloody Cross has pretty decent range. I actually just love the knockback of Bloody Cross, man. Like the knockback of Bloody Cross is just too damn good. And I love the animation. It's the best animation in the game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That and High Jump are pretty sick.
Agreed. I actually do like Heavy Smash, too. Even though it's somewhat vanilla, you know, it's just pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it does look cool, but it needs to be less damage and off turn or off the charge. It doesn't need the charge. That kind of makes it harder to play around.
I agree. They kind of went like on a few of these. You're like, yeah, let that be a charge one. I'm like, well, it's not that much of a problem because you could always use now or in fast acting medication. But it's like it's annoying. You know what I mean? Like to have to use that.
You have to set it up. You have to plan for it in advance. You have to run units or strategies that will allow you to get it off. Whereas it's like, oh, Maxwell just uses high jump.
Yeah, agreed. So Trish, even just based off last night, she was giving me, she was breaking my heart last night, dude. I just don't like her range. Her damage isn't good. She is essentially what Coffee just said. She is to be used as a utility character. She doesn't do much damage. I think she's probably like, kind of, I don't want to say like exactly like Piccoletta, but when you use like Act Again, her entire idea is to utilize, stones and stuff like that, or just whatever you need to do for setup. If you need somebody to be doing setup, oil jug, stuff like that, she's your guy. Because she's not going to be doing a lot of damage. It's just plain and simple. Like Fire Arrow is cool, it does some decent damage, but her range is kind of bad. It's pretty bad for an archer. Her and Rudolph's range is dreadful, and I don't like that. Not a lot of damage, so her utility bar is way up. But I don't know, man. You got anything else for Trish? What do you think?
I would say she's B and then A if you're using the item spam thing, because then it actually, like, she can kind of bob and weave and move. She has good mobility and while getting damage off and decent durability. So kind of like with Piccoletta, if you can afford to spam the items, I'd say she's like just an A tier damage dealer.
Agreed. I like the way she looks though. Like she has one of the best like sprites in the game. Like especially when it's all promoted in that red. I'm like, yeah, she looks fucking sick, but she doesn't do anything. Then Travis, I think is B. It's a shame that it's just I have like a little bit of like spite against both these characters because you have to go through the game one time for each of them, and they're both not good. I'm like, dude, what? This is like a slap in the face. I just don't get it. So we're rocking with B for both of those. Coffee, we good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Milo. Now I am a Milo simp. Let's get that out the way. Let's go ahead and clear the air. I think she's incredibly good. She's pretty much like, she is like the cornerstone of most of my comps. Pretty much I'm always going to deploy Milo every single time. Power of Love is too good. She has incredible evasion too. She dodged 4 attacks in a row last night. And she didn't have I think she did have an evasion bracelet on. So that's not base, but that's still pretty good, right? She has it all. Heart Stealer being, you can reduce that and increase it on her weapon grid as well. It's just She has it all, man. What are you thinking about Milo?
I had originally put her at A, but I think S is fair because she can like moon jump. She has 10 move.
Mm-hmm.
She can climb high ground. She can single target spike with double magic bracelets and her poison attack because it scales the damage.
I like that poison attack a lot. Wait,
What's
hold
that?
on. Let me ask you this. What do you think about Blue Mist? Because I always use Poison Mist. What do you think about Blue Mist?
Blue Mist actually isn't bad when you use it on bosses or if you use it on an enemy mage in that 1 TP because
Gotcha.
instead of flipping them, like let's say she's at 1 TP, right? She can't Heart Stealer, she can't Power of Love. She's next to a mage. If that mage has 1 TP, she can just keep siphoning a TP off it to then eventually flip it or flip something else or just waste time. But it's good on like mages that are low TP or bosses.
Got you. Okay.
And
Sorry,
debuffs too.
I know that was kind of out of left field, but I don't get to talk to somebody. Well, we started talking like over this week, but I normally don't get to talk to other people that like have played the game as much as I have. So like I'm gonna have like a lot of like nitpicky questions. All right.
No, it's all good.
Okay. So Milo and S, I think she could be bumped down to A. But I think S is just good. I think between Heartstiller, the only thing about her that I just don't like is Stardust. I just wish Stardust was better, man.
It's just kind of random. Like it's not the worst thing because she can move in between enemies and potentially hit 4 dudes.
Yeah.
60% stun or paralyzed, but it's just like better. She has so much better. Like she has so many better options. Why bother?
Yeah. I would just rather wait for the Power of Love. You know what I mean? I would just wait or just, do a Heartstiller if I need to. But I like her in S. She has everything. Her ability also to act after Moon Jump, very, very good. That's clutched it out so many times for me. Moving on to the drippiest character in this game, Sir Maxwell. Maxwell is one of my main attackers. Like as far as melees, I use him more than anybody else. I think that I thought about this the other day, but I forgot. There was one drawback that I had for him because on paper he's almost a perfect melee. You know what I mean? He has a range attack, he has good movement, he has good damage. He has a really great weapon skill. He has it all, man. Like, there's not really that many drawbacks to him, and he has revive, which is completely unnecessary in my opinion. I don't really think it with that. What do you think about Maxwell? You got any drawbacks from Maxwell?
So I've actually like experimented with running him versus Roland just to see what would happen like on different map types.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between them is basically Maxwell is more durable and Roland can generally deal a little bit more damage, assuming that you loop around enemies, get an opportune back crit, and rush through their backs.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Maxwell, he does essentially have rush for 2. He has his run through.
Yeah.
That costs 3 TP. He hits 2 things. He gets 1 back. But just because it costs 3 to start makes it way less flexible. With a battery, Maxwell's better for sure because of high jump spam. I would say he's at minimum A tier. I'm hesitant to put him into S because him being an S relies on him catching hard battery to spam high jump because 5 TP is a lot.
Yeah.
And Glacial Moon is 4 and TP on ice is really good. You can use both. I would say he's at least A tier.
I'm actually cool with putting him in A. I think, you know what? When I look at this list, I would put Maxwell, Frederica. Let's do this. Let's try to order this just a bit.
Yeah, he like in the higher end of A tier.
Yeah, he'd be right around here. See, when I look at these 3, this all makes sense. But he's definitely, I think, better than these. You know what I mean? Him and Roland. Yeah. Well, he's not that far from Benedict. Benedict gets his shit off. Like, Benedict, like, he has his own thing going on. But these 3, I think, sit in a different realm of A. Like, I think these 3 sit in A+. Maybe here. These 2 A+. I'm actually fine with Archie just being in regular A. Everybody else is in regular A, I think. But then, the thing is that in most cases, I would actually prefer Maxwell over Serenoa, though.
For sure, yeah.
In most cases, I would.
Damage.
Just because, if nothing else, it's like the revive, like I don't need a resurrection earring. He's just incredibly durable. And you can make mistakes, and you can't make mistakes like that with Serenoa. And that just makes him a better character. But he doesn't have Death Ball, so there's that. Actually, speaking of Death Ball, your favorite character, I think you are synonymous for Flanagan. Most people know you from Flanagan, your Death Ball comp. So I will let you actually lead this one off, sir.
All right, so originally I thought Flanagan was terrible, and then I was going to make a unit guide on him, so then I started testing his abilities out. I discovered Rampart's halved damage, from all sources, and I was like, okay, so everything takes half damage for 3 turns. That's ridiculous. How can we exploit this? And then I discovered like the Medina, the Serenoa puts tank on him, and it just spiraled out of control. And now he's like one of the best units in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's on purpose from the developers or not, I would say he's S tier. And not even just from Deathball. If you just have him next to any of your mages, he can make your Corinthians, your Fredericas extremely tanky. And enemies do not see damage mitigation. They will go right after Corinton, even if he has shielding stance on him and ramparts. He'll take quarter damage. So like instead of taking 300 damage,
take 100.
Yeah, he'd take 100 or whatever. Or would it be 75? I think
75. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, and they'll still focus him. Like they cannot perceive damage mitigation. So you can use Corinton as a lightning rod, and he'll take no damage. And then you can just glacial moon things, and you can plug these into any team comp. It just makes your entire back line invincible.
Let me ask you this: without using Serenoa, say without Serenoa, where do you put Flanagan? No Death Ball, no Serenoa.
You can still throw a Reziring on him. You can still put say there's enemy mages that only have like lightning magic. You can put lightning amulets on him.
Yeah.
You can put Gila Res on him. You can overheal him. Even without Serenoa, he's still S tier because he can still. There's all these ways to make his magic weakness non-existent. You could always have Milo like flip mages. You could nuke mages down. You could like have Huette pin them down. Like there's all these ways to work around that. You can even just divide your front lines so that you have like Eridor up front, Flanagan in back, and a distance of like 5 tiles, and then the mages are like 6 tiles away from your front lines. You can just position them in that way, and then your mages just nuke incoming enemy melee. He can just positionally, he can be positioned away from mages and keep your mages completely safe against like enemy archers and spam. But with Serenoa, it's just easier. But yeah, you can throw a Reziring on him, Gila Res, and he's fine.
I definitely think that his utility is better than everybody in B, like for sure. As far as like A, I think I have him like in the middle of A. Like it depends on like use cases, because the thing with Flanagan is that he's the only other pure tank you get in this game. So like that in itself is very valuable. So I don't know about S. That's just me though. Like I haven't. This is more on me. I haven't tested him enough or experimented with him enough to say like, yeah, 100% S. But I'm definitely like good with like conceding A. Like, I think he's definitely like at least like better than everybody in B for sure. His utility and better than half the people in A as well. But I think if it comes down to needing, so for Flanagan, is he like a auto deploy? Like when you play seriously like a hard map, is he like an auto deploy for you? You always gonna use him?
I don't always run anyone. I just run whatever. Like lately I've just been running just random nonsense just to see how it works.
Gotcha.
Honestly, I think the reason I default him to S is because when I do run him, he's so good the game is boring. Like literally straight up, he just makes even without Death Ball, just like having Flanagan next to Medina and Corinton, it's over. You could probably just beat maps just with them. Like it's really bad. Yeah,
I have to test it more. So I mean, for now, I would actually probably want to put something like in between like A or S.
You can put him in A. That's fine.
Let's put him. You know, in many cases, I would actually rather have him than Roland. I would actually rather have another defensive measure than Roland. I'm cool with that. So I have another question. Why do you think they gave him such fucking dreadful magic defense? I think it's just like somebody had like a hey boner for him. 13 is like, it's 13 to 14, right? It's 14. That is just fucking insane. What were they thinking?
He doesn't have a downside if he didn't. If he had normal magic defense.
Well, not even normal, but just like, man, just give him 20 at least, you know?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's fine because Ramparts is so broken. I don't know if they know that it's broken or not. But it's just so broken that he needs some kind of downside. Like Eridor's downside is his movement, right? So everyone, Lionel's downside, aside from Golden Opportunity, is generally his damage. Huette's no area damage. Corinton, his durability. So like all these units have like some big downside in some way. He needs that. Like if he didn't have that downside, he would just be even more oppressive, and he'd probably be God tier. Because he's really that good, honestly. Like if you just use him a lot, and he just sits there. And the other thing too is he can throw stones, he can like spot heal with items, he can use aerial assault and then return to the formation. So like wherever he moves, he brings ramparts with him. That's another upside. So he can kind of be repositioned with ramparts, which is kind of interesting. I haven't really experimented with that, but it is possible because whoever's next to him gets it. So
got you. All right, I'm cool with that. We'll do A. I like that. Now Groma, this is actually a character that's kind of growing on me pretty quickly, actually. I've been doing this to spin the wheel thing, and I got Groma like twice already. And both times I had to use Groma. Granted, this is pretty early game. It's like chapters 1 through 5. But she did pretty damn well, actually. Like, she was moving. Like, she was getting her shit off. I still don't believe in evasion tanks in this game, just because, like, well, I had to augment her. Let's get this out the way. I had to augment her to hell. Also, like, I had to give her, like, 2 HP bracelets. Like, once she hits 520 HP, I feel very comfortable. But running around with 420 HP in hard mode is just, like, fucking scary. Avalora did, like, 363 damage to Serenella last night and killed him in 1 hit. And because I wasn't paying attention. So when things like that are on the table, like that's just having 420 hit points is just nuts, dude. So that by itself, you know, I think that I've come around to her utility and her damage. Like she does do damage, you know, especially if you can set up like pincer attacks, she can get her shit off. But I still think that she has just glaring weaknesses, man. What do you think?
I think she's like a solid B tier. She doesn't have enough damage or shutdown or utility to be an A, but she's not like bad enough where she's like C tier or not usable. The evasion thing, I completely agree. Like when it works, great, but then when you get hit, it's like, okay, now I'm at like 40%.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know, dude. Sometimes when some of these characters get hit, it feels like I got hit. Like when your mages get hit, I was like, dude, that fucking hurt. And for a melee that's out there, you can't have that, man. I need you to be able to take like maybe 2 hits. You know, if you're like on life support after that second hit, I'll deal with that. But after 1 hit, you're on life support. That's just shaky ground, you know?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, Piccoletta's tankier than Groma. And she has more base health and better defense, I think. Definitely better magic defense, but
yeah.
The main problem with Groma is she needs better Fury. Her Fury range is terrible. Her movement of 5 isn't good enough to get her close to things. If she had like 6 move, then that would be something. Like you can put a movement bracelet on her or bangle on her or whatever. But even with that, it's kind of suspect.
I agree, and that kind of makes me remember another thing when it comes to Groma is that like you kind of want to have her in not necessarily front line, like front mid line, but the thing is that the rest of these characters can get the hell out of dodge when they need to. Anna, Huette, Maxwell, like the people you put on front line, Milo, like these people can get the hell out of dodge when they need to. She can't. You know what I mean? Like 5 movement range, she is there, dude. Like she's like stuck. So when she's in, she's in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
And she's not like Eridor where she can for sure tank stuff with like a king shield. Like she can't get hit with magic. She's dead. As soon as she gets hit with 2 spells, she's evaporated.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah, it's too many problems. I've warmed up to her a little bit. But clear issues. All right, moving on to Wifey, Journal of Laura. How about we start at S tier and go from there? What do you think?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
She's at least S.
So what are you thinking about her, man?
She can solo a lot of maps straight up. Like you just turn everyone off and she can just solo maps. I've seen people pulling this off. Death Ball, she's part of Death Ball because Death Ball, like you just have like a really tanky, small amount of units and then just knock off units to boost her stats. And then she just roams around and enemies won't even target her because she's so powerful and her defensive stats are so high. So at minimum, S tier is fair.
Okay. Agree with that. Have you seen the level 50 video for Mock Battle where he sold it with Evlora?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was nuts. That was some good shit. She's just good, man. She has incredibly good. The only thing that she requires is a mage. Somebody to keep her healthy. If you don't want to give her like a whatever the accessory is that she recovers, you know, when she kills somebody. If you don't want to give her that, then you know, outside of that, she's incredibly powerful. When she hits somebody, she hits them. I don't know what else to say about her. She has a good weapon skill, strong power. A lot of like enemies, like especially if you have like lower unit numbers, say instead of like you went with 6 people instead of 10 people, because her stats are so boosted up, enemies will just ignore her. Like they'll go around and just not attack her, which kind of leaves her free reign to just cause mayhem. That's another good thing I like about her as well.
That's like one of the use cases of like decoy too. So decoy will always get attacked if the units around it have higher defensive stats. So sometimes when you throw a decoy out, like if you have Frederica next to it, they'll be like, "Oh, cool, she has 25 defense, decoy is 30. All right, you're gonna die, Frederica." But if you run like a more durable team comp with units who have higher average defense than like 35, which is what the decoy's defense is, it is a guaranteed lightning rod. So kind of similar to how Avlora can kind of just like ignore things, or things ignore her. The decoy, when its defense is lower, will always be attacked.
Got you. Yep. That's just, she's one of the best physical attackers in the game. She's my second favorite after Maxwell when it comes to this physical attackers. She just gets the job done, man. She's very rarely failed me. I normally fail her, if anything. Like, I just overextended her or something like that. She's just good. If you even give her... She doesn't need either of her accessory slots. That's one thing I really like about Avlora. But if you give her, like, a res ring, ridiculous. Yeah.
If you give her res and endurance earring and then put Gila res on her, she's never going to die.
Yeah, she's just ridiculous. Or if you even give her Cordelia above and beyond, that's one of my favorite. She's just too good. Okay. Moving on to Wheelbarrow Man. Now, I have a bit of a stronger affinity for Decimal than most people, just because I like the gimmick. Some gimmicks in games just aren't good. This is one that's funny, and I like to use it. Just because when it works, it's satisfying. But sometimes he literally is just sitting there. But he does also get a passive buff that pretty much was made for him with the Obsidian Bracelet. So I think he has a lot of stuff going for him. But the thing is, sometimes you need him to be able to do something. And you could always throw stones, right? I know you're a huge advocate of throwing stones. So that might actually increase his utility even more. What do you think about Decimal, man?
Originally I had him at B. It's hard to say because like his TP issue, like I tried using him again recently, like even on a map where everything's above him and just spam height +5. And it can be good, but he needs like hard batteried. He needs like 2 batteries to just recharge him if you want to spam something.
Yeah.
He can wait and he can reset his TP and then he has like dead turns. So then his average damage goes down.
Yep.
So like one thing I think that needs tested more is like people need to just take like Corentin, take Decimal, have them just like just add up all the damage they deal, just have them compete for damage on like a map and just see who deals more damage, like Glacial Moon Spam or Decimal height +5. And I would argue that in most cases, like just all the dead turns and all of the compensation being shoved into Decimal reduces the amount of turns like that you're using, right? So like he needs 2 things to battery him. That's 2 units turn.
Yeah.
If you just have 2 units cast spells, that's now damage that's flexible between 2 units.
Yep.
And so it's I would say he's like B or A tier, but I'm leaning more towards B just because of the investment cost.
Yep. I agree with that assessment. That's a good breakdown, actually. Like I said, I'm biased, but I think most people run of the mill, he's definitely B, probably. I think he's like, the thing is like, you might not like this, or not you, but most people might not like this, is that sometimes he might have full TP and no fucking targets to hit, dude. Like literally, like that is, and then the other thing with his buff, that only targets people that have 0 TP. But if you're running a Medina, or they'll never have 0 TP, so I don't like that he conflicts with one of my favorite characters. I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I'm actually cool with B. When I look at this, I definitely think he's right around Hasselbar. I have, kind of a personal affinity for both of them. I would rather field him than everybody else below. So I would rather field him than Rudolph. Depending on the map, I might want Groma than him. Definitely would rather take the I'd rather take the dice roll than use Narv. Izana, and definitely these 2. Yeah, B is cool. What, you thinking B?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. All right, down to the final 2. Now, Giovanna, another character that I have a pretty strong affinity for. I think that I like her actual in-game sprite quite a bit, actually. I think it looks pretty sick. I think she has one of the best design sprites, her and Trish. But I don't think that she gets more shit than she should. You know what I mean? I think that people wrote her off incredibly quick. And I'm like, did anybody sit down and do anything with her? Like, did anybody try anything? That was half the comments that I got on that Deadly Duos video, where it's like, oh, I didn't even know about the Giovanna thing. Like, I'm gonna try it, or I'm like, yeah, somebody tried it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be a dickhead or sound pretentious, but every character in this game is viable in their own way, but I think that Giovanna and Piccoletta get hammered the most, and I think Giovanna by far gets hammered way more than Piccoletta. Like, dude, like as far as like people just like she sucks ass, she's bad. I was like, I don't think that like she requires more. Yeah, I'm like she just requires more. She's kind of like not necessarily an Izana, but like she requires a lot more to get started.
She's a magical Roland, and people don't understand how to use her. And now that I've like played with her more, I do think she is A tier, and the reason for this is similar to Roland. She can do a lot with very little TP. Like he can rush for 2 TP, and he can just like roll up behind a dude, get a back crit, and then opportune attack, and that's like 200, sometimes 300 damage. And he can hit 2 things passively. But with her, she has similar mobility and defensive stats to Roland. Way better magic defense. Lane nuker, but with magic. Really good with Corinton. On her dead turns, she can throw an Ice Stone to set up her own tiles for Gelid Barrage spam. And she can also build up TP just by running around like a madman, or in this case, mad woman, just like chucking stones at dudes, and then just like Gaia's Roar.
Chill, dude. People under like Gaia's Roar is like one of the highest damaging attacks in the game, right? It's like top 3.
In the range, if you can get a good line of enemies, you can hit an absurd amount of enemies with that.
Yeah.
If you position her well, she can hit like, on average, I would say like 3 to 7 enemies. And even if you just run up to a thing and just Gaia's Roar it, if it's at half health, it'll probably kill it in most cases.
Yeah, she definitely has some shit. Like, I don't like that people just like wrote her off completely. Like, that's probably how you felt about Flanagan. It's like people are just kind of like writing this guy off, but that's kind of how I felt about Giovanna. I was like, no, I think she's definitely has some shit. Like, I'm not saying she's the best character in the game. I think she's held back by some pretty blatant flaws, right? She's the slowest character in the game. Is that right?
Yeah, she has like 24 speed, I think, but you definitely want speed bracelet or something.
She needs more. Yeah. And you know what? I actually don't mind her going last. That way she can kind of adapt to what's going on the field, because the field might have changed so much, and then the enemy might have put themselves in a bad situation. So I actually grew to not mind that. I think a speed bracelet definitely is going to be better overall, but sometimes having her go last is like when the field's already changed. I'm like, now they put themselves in a bad situation. I can Gaia's Roar, I can Gel Barrage, can get all that out. Now, what do you think about, something that's been floating around is people saying she should have some type of terraforming ability to change the field. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't want that. What I would rather have is an either-or ability where certain abilities can activate either on any tile or on more conditions. I think that would be better, because then she could, be more flexible. Because currently her main thing is just spamming Gelid Barrage, I think, and then throwing Ice Stones, and then using Gaia's Roar. I think that's her best use case.
It is.
Because she's actually pretty self-sufficient. So if she just runs and then throws an Ice Stone, and she's at it's her, she's at 0 TP, turn start, 1 TP, throws an Ice Stone, runs and throws an Ice Stone. Now she's at 2 TP. Next turn she can Gelid Barrage. Great. So she can do it every other turn on her own.
Yeah.
For the most part, so it's not bad. Like, even without a battery, pretty durable.
She's got some stuff. No, I like her. I think that she has clearly, like, the thing is I think Ivy Beam is one of her better attacks, because it does have the mobilize, but like you very rarely get to use it, especially late game. It's just the maps. Maps
and
not
the
made
thing
for
that's
it.
dumb too is like it's like a grass and earth attack, but it doesn't work in mud. It doesn't work on flat lands, which is like grass, and it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you can't work in grass.
Dude, I feel like that attack was just made for, when you have to go fight in Fox, am I saying it right? The Fox domain. That's like one of her best maps, because she used Ivy Beam nonstop on that one. Like, the Immobilize, I think, is incredibly good. I think her fire attack is not good, because you have to...
Too much setup.
Yeah, too much setup, and you got to either give her Fire Eater or a Fire Amulet, and it doesn't... I'd rather just put Ice Stones and not be damaging my character every turn. It's
so
just...
much easier to get ice off.
Yeah.
It just stays there forever. It's just so much more flexible. Same damage. They should have... I did like a video where I was talking about things I'd like for them to change in her. It's like more flexibility with the tiles, make the attacks more distinct. Her heal should be like an AoE for 1 TP, like a Sanctuary for 1 in water. I think that would be completely reasonable, because right now it's like, why? It heals for less than like any healing pellet. It's like, why would you ever use it?
It's flash. It has a cool animation at least. So I'm like, this is garbage. It's like, it's not as bad as Be Brave is better, because it kills more than 1 people. But like, it's just bad. And then there was one, the Times Child. I don't think we need to discuss. I actually don't like talking about this character anymore. I stopped talking about that guy like after I did my first best units video. After that, I was like, I don't want to talk about this guy anymore. It's like this is not fun to watch, and I don't use him at all. Like, I do not use this character at all. He completely, like, people give me shit for using Medina, but I'm like, she's like the lesser of two evils, dude. Like, if you're using Medina and Quahog, like, you are like, the game is on autopilot. Like, you don't have to do shit.
Yeah, I stopped using Medina too, like, just because it's too good. Like,
it's too good, yeah.
You spam AoEs and then nuke things. It's not even remotely hard. Honestly, I want a very hard mode and balance changes, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do. You know, as everybody astutely told me on my DLC video, you're not doing DLC. I'm like, I know that, dude. That's why, hence the wishlist moniker here. Yeah, I think that those two need adjustments. I still can't believe that TP physics is in the game the way it is. Blows my mind consistently. Yeah, he's just, you know, for anybody that's unfamiliar, you're watching this for the first time, you're just not getting into triangle strategy. Let's do some bullet points for quick coffee. Why is Quahog a broken character?
He has a bunch of ways to break the game. The main one is reverse space-time, so it resets everything's position that's still alive. So what you do is you get all of your units to like 5 or 4 TP, you have them spam like your glacial moons, your high jumps, you just blow out all of your abilities, you just kill as many things as humanly possible. You have Julio standing next to Quahog. Quahog reverses everyone, refilling their health, reverting their position, removing any conditions they didn't have in the previous turn, resetting all of their TP, complete reset, complete board reset, except for everything that's dead. So you can manipulate it so that all of your units go one right after the other with speed items, and then you can kill everything, reset it all, and then you can have Julio use Inheritor on Quahog, and then you can just keep doing that until all the enemies are dead. And that's just one of the ways he breaks the game.
Yeah, and that's one of the more tame versions, actually.
Yeah.
That's not even a count. Like, shit he has with Izana. He has, like, S-tier tech with every single character in the game. You know what I mean? Like, if you just take a basic character like Huette, reverse space-time, you know, her, and then she has 2 people Shadow Stitch, or she has 2 people, you know, like, she has that TP back, then she can blind somebody else. Like, it's just insane, dude. The applications are literally endless. It only just depends on your imagination as a player, honestly. And he's not fun. You know, I use him a handful of times. Like, this character it's too good. I don't like using like super duper busted stuff. I like using some good stuff. You know, like Medina is probably as far as I would go, but using him and Medina is just too good. Honestly, it's just too good. It just removes all the challenge from the game. The game just becomes very, very self-sufficient from that point. Okay, so let's do a quick recap before we get out of here. So, Residents and God tier, Quahog and Medina. We cool with that, right? That's the clear standouts.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. S tiers, we have Anna, who's a new addition. Huette, which is obvious, you know, just kind of going through my hard mode. Erdor, we already knew. Lionel, we already knew. Quarantine, we already knew. Quarantine edges out Frederica. Quarantine and Frederica are up for debate. They could be interchanged depending on your playstyle. I think having ice on the field is more valuable than having squares ablaze because you can do it no matter the terrain. You can always put ice on the field, and that in itself gives you a lot. I think it's better. I think that he just offers slightly more than Frederica, and he is not prone to any environmental changes. So I think that's why he edges out Frederica. You want to add anything there, Coffee?
That's just Glacial Moon. That's it.
Glacial Moon.
Just spam Glacial Moon.
Okay. So Sarah Noah is one where we have him in S here. He could be down in A. So him and Maxwell could swap depending on who you're talking to. He gets S due to Death Ball comp and his affinity with Flanagan. Just that mitigation itself is extremely powerful. But if you had him in A, yeah, it's fine. Jens, he's the only one in the game that can do what he does. He actually just breaks the game. Literally just breaks the game, but in a cool way. Like, in a way that requires some of your brain activity. So he's not quite as bad as like Quahog. And he has clear faults also. So, cool with S there. Milo, Power of Love. Avlora, everything. From top to bottom. Not just Power of Love, but Moon Jump and Heart Stealer and everything. Literally, like, and her evasion. Like, Milo just has a ton of stuff, dude. Like, her kit is astounding. So, we cool with S?
Yeah.
Okay. A, we already talked about Frederica. Maxwell, he could be an S depending on your playstyle. Archibald, that passive, the instant death 50% is just broken, incredible range, good damage. The guy's ridiculous. Benedict, one of the four gods of synergy. No one else can do what he does. He could take a hit also. He has some stuff. Flanagan might be pretty contentious depending on who you're talking to. I've kind of come around to him. I understand his utility, and being the only other tank in the game, you just have to use him the way he's intended. I would recommend checking out some of Coffee's videos. He has plenty of videos dedicated specifically towards Flanagan and how to utilize them. Once you've seen the light and once you start using them in that way, A, makes sense. Roland, one of the best DPS characters in this game, but you got to keep him safe. Any final words on Roland, Coffee?
I think a lot of people struggle with his positioning. Like, I've been hearing a lot that he dies too much. Mm-hmm. And I think if you play like a lot of Fire Emblem, like maddening, you kind of like develop like a sense of like what is safe and what's not. So like for me, it was never a problem to like keep him safe because it's like, oh, okay, just never have him near anything. Like he can get hit by one thing, that's it.
Pretty much.
So because that's what maddening is, like if two things hit you, you're gone.
Yep.
Unless you're running some gimmick, but.
Agreed. Then we have both our mages coming in at an A. Now, mages, again, something that's kind of contentious. Seeing some people have them real low, and I'm like, I just don't think you like mages. Both our healers, they're good. And once you get their weapon skills, whatever you have them at, you got to bump them up a full letter. If they were at B before, once they get their weapon skills, they actually completely digivolve, so they're too good. Julio at A. I originally had him at B, but Coffee had some insight. You want to give some final words on Julio, Coffee?
He basically just gives your unit's battery plus damage boosts, and he can off tank, he can contribute to damage, and he's just a good utility in general that can do a lot of different things. So that's really all to say about him.
Agreed. We just went over a whole spiel with Giovanna, so we're not going to rehash that, but I definitely think she's A. If you are not using Quarantine, there's an argument for her to be B, but I think she's far and away, I would rather have her than every single person in B in most cases. Maybe depending on the map. If I have a flat map, dude, I can get my shit off with Giovanna. But I'd rather have her than anybody. Maybe Piccoletta or Izana, maybe. But I'd probably rather have Giovanna. And then going to B. So B, Piccoletta. We had quite a bit of discussion with that. You had her in A. I'm going to experiment with her a bit more in my most recent hard mode. So she probably might move up to A because you had some pretty good commentary on that. You want to recap that?
Yeah, basically, if you just throw 2 speed bracelets on her, she gets, like, I think 37 speed and gets a lot of extra turns. And she has 6 range with thrown items and effectively 7 range with AoE. And she also has 6 movement, really good defensive stats, pretty high evasion. I think it's like 72 or 74. So she's very tanky. She can get hit like 3, sometimes 4 times before dying. And plus the evasion, plus the range. She's basically just like a more durable mage, essentially. Like who can also throw decoys down if you want to use decoys.
Got you. Yes, I agree with that. Now Hasselbar and Decima are 2 characters that are a bit lower for my tier list. Hasselbar, I've got to experiment with her more. That I have like level 50. Everything's new game plus hard mode. I will report back about her and see what I think. But she was always going to be pretty contentious. Not excelling directly in one clear avenue really does hurt her. Even if she does have a pretty versatile kit, she sometimes just can't do something worth doing, if that makes sense. Like unless it's pushback, knocking somebody off a ledge, she can move to be a meat shield or a distraction, but sometimes it's just not worth it. Decimil, he's a calculator type. You're either going to like it or you're not. Some people don't like it. I think he's fine. I think having to sit still really does hurt him. You know what I mean? Especially the momentum of the match. But once he gets going, he's good. But it really is a dice roll. So either it's going to be a good match or it's going to be a bad decimal match. That's pretty much all there is to it. Anything you want to add about any of those 2 characters, Coffee?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Then we have Rudolph Rudolfsky. Accuracy issues. He's the worst. He's not the worst. He's the 3rd best archer in the game, second to last. Accuracy issues. He just has too many problems, honestly. He's relatively slow, too. Just too many issues. Critical flaws. Groma, evasion issues. Not evasion issues. HP issues. 420 base HP. She really can't take too many hits. When she gets going, she's good, but she has bad movement as well. 5 squares. So if she gets in a sticky situation, she really can't get out of it. So that really makes it really strange where to put her, because she can't really be frontline, because if something gets spicy, she can't get out. And you don't want to have her too far back because she's a melee. Her range-based attacks are decent, but, you know, it's not really what she excels in. And then we have Narv, who is, in my opinion, the third worst. He's right above Izana as far as bad mages. You know what I mean? TP recovery issues. And we're going to actually talk about both of them together. TP recovery issues hurt both of them. You want to talk about those four? Rudolph, Groma, Narv, Izana.
No, I think you hit everything pretty accurately. Like, yeah, Groma's thing is she needs some kind of extra mobility. Like, she just puts herself in danger, and her fury isn't really good at all. Like, its range needs to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, her damage isn't as high as, like, you know, Anna's or someone else. And you know, she's just basically like a weird Eridor that has trouble doing anything really, like moving around, dealing damage, getting furies off, that sort of thing.
I agree. Definitely agree. And then the last two, I think, are bottom. I think Trish is like bottom 3 in the game. I don't like Trish, and my most recent experiences with her made me not like her even more. She doesn't excel in any one thing. I think if you really marry her to her utility strat, where utilizing a lot of stone usage and bumping up her speed, you could probably get a ton of mileage out of Trish. That means your coffers need to be kind of full. You know, you gotta have a decent amount of gil sitting around, coins sitting around, if you're gonna be utilizing stones like that. You know, she probably does have some broken stuff, but just her base kit as it stands, not that good. Travis, I think, is actually, because he does do damage, and he can actually be outfitted pretty well. So Travis actually slide maybe. You think Travis is better than Groma, man?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He can backward toss. He can just spam backward toss for 1 TP, and it hits pretty hard. And then it repositions enemies, like, so that he passively sets up a follow-up attack, because he flips the enemy behind him. Then any unit can run up and initiate a follow-up.
I think he's more consistent in Decimal, but Decimal sometimes really gets lucky. But I think he's definitely better than all these characters for sure. He's Hasselbar, maybe. She has more utility. She can actually do big things. Yeah, I don't think it's as good as Piccoletta, though. He doesn't have as much utility as Piccoletta, though. I don't think she's that good anymore. But even just going through my most recent playthrough, I'm like, this character is ridiculous. And Quarantine definitely was, nothing less but A. But I'm kind of happy with this. You know what I mean? I think that this is in a pretty good state. What are your closing thoughts on this, Coffee? What are you thinking about this tier list?
I think this is pretty good. I think this is fair. Honestly, none of the units are so bad that they should even be in C tier. In my original video, I had Hotsabara by herself in C tier. But even if she just rides around on a horse and just throws like elemental stones, she's at least a B, and she does bring a lot to the table. But I think this is pretty good.
I agree. I think it's pretty good as well. So I'm happy with it. So this will be the first of probably like a 3 or 4 part series. We're going to do a couple different things. I think the next one we're going to do is like a meta breakdown or like combination breakdowns and stuff like that. And we'll kind of bounce off, like some videos will be on my channel, some videos will be on Coffee channel. This is more of kind of like a collaborative experience, just so that the Triangle Strategy community, it's been pretty excellent to both of us, right? I think that's safe to say, right? It's pretty much exploded both of our channels. So we kind of just want to give back to you guys, right? While kind of celebrating both content creators. And if there are any other content creators that make Triangle Strategy content, I think I'd be open to that, right? What do you think, man?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if there's anybody out there making Triangle Strategy videos and you'd like to collaborate, or you just want to just kind of hop in here in VC and have some discussion with us, I think we'd be open to that. We could probably arrange that. Hit me on Discord or hit us on Twitter. I'll leave links for that down below. But until next time, LC and Coffee signing out. We will see you guys on the next collab video. Peace.